So it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Every day is a school day, and I've learnt a new word from Norman this afternoon. I'm therefore preventing this from being a manel, being a female on the panel. I also come with that early years perspective. So our school is a new school in a new community. We've been open for 3 years now. It's my second headship, and it's the first time I've been part of a multi-academy trust. So as a new school, we have to be an academy. So there's the political context coming in, and we genuinely started from a flat field, and we opened the school in September. We started building in January and opened in September. So, as Lee said, we're part of the Cabot Learning Federation, which is a multi-academy trust generally geographically based around BS16 in Bristol, and we have some academies that are outside of that where they've needed support. And so I've got 5 minutes to really talk about, building on Martin's talk earlier, really talk about ground level, grassroots type stuff. So thinking about best in class, aspirations and options very much came to me in terms of our vision for developing things at Wallscourt Farm, and linking really effectively with business and our community, and thinking of things in terms of intergenerational learning. So these are 3 things that are really important to us when designing the vision for learning at school, and I think are really applicable across the sector. All of our children have been to university by the time they reach 5 years of age, because we're closely geographically linked with the University of West of England, and we recognise that in an area of social deprivation, and we have a really wide social spectrum, we recognise that we need to show our children the places they could go. We're also really clear with our families when they come and look around that we make these trips to the university and out into the city and out to the community, but we're really open with our families that that's not the only route for our children, and that actually is about opening up those opportunities and giving them a sense of where they could go, and giving them that sense of achievement that we've, an aspiration. Yesterday was International Women's Day, and we had a gathering of all of our 170 children, and our children were thinking about what they would like to be, #one day I will, and it was all about that. I had 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds talking about what they wanted to be when they're older, and it's about that, raising aspirations, but not waiting for them to get to secondary school. So one of the things that I lead on across the Federation is careers, education, information, advice and guidance, which is a mouthful in itself, and I'm just learning to get to grips with that. But it's about giving children the opportunities to think about where they want to go and what they want to do right from the start, not waiting. So we think about equity and excellence for all. Our bottom line is every single child getting exactly what they need. And when we first talked about that, I talked about that with our educational psychologist, and he said, "Wow, Susie, that's a lot to ask for, isn't it?" And I said, "Of course, but if that's not what we're asking for, then I'm not sure what we're here for." So it's about that. Every child gets one chance. We have our top 10, and that's our Academy Improvement Plan in really simple terms. It's what we share with our families, it's what we share with our children, and it's what we share with our communities. And again, that's for me about navigating as a leader. That's about navigating the political landscape in which we find ourselves and the changing context versus what we genuinely think is important for our children as they grow up and go out and move into the world. So navigating that landscape is a key role for myself as a leader, but also for every member of our team. When thinking about that equity and excellence then, people premium, we've talked a lot about that today. I had a long think about this, and I think, bottom line again for us is that's not about breakfast club or interventions particularly. That's about knowing every child in your school and making sure that all of your teachers know every child and their families, and actually knowing what the key drivers and context changes would be for that family. So for some of them, of course, it's breakfast club to make sure that they're in and they're fed and they can focus on learning. But for some of them, it's enrichment opportunities. So it's different for each child and each family, and it's about getting to know that for each and every member of your community. And we'll have 420 pupils by 2020, and I want to make sure that every one of those children has exactly the same opportunity as the first 50 who joined us in September 13. And that's the challenge that I pose to staff when they join our school every year. So, thinking about the best schools then, I've got a couple of visual prompts for myself here. I've got one, which is a photograph of a child in our reception class, and he's holding up a flamingo pencil. The flamingo pencil is created with pipe cleaners and feathers and a pencil and Play-Doh. He designed that. He wrote about that, he created his plan, and after that, the teacher who was with him along that learning journey gathered all the resources that he had requested and instantly had them ready for him the next day so that he could create it, then review it, then reflect it. We photographed it, we tweeted it, we shared that with his family, and the impact that that had was phenomenal in terms of actually showing about the difference a teacher can make for a child, moving them forward in their learning journey. The other photo I have is a photograph of our future leader representatives. Again, our children are young, but they have very, very loud voices in the right way. They are able to make big statements about what they would like our school to be about. I think you have to think about the investment over the long term. So thinking about the big things, the big vision when you're doing the small things is another one of our kind of mantras. Our children who started in September 13, only 33 of them came in to reception with the skills, knowledge, learning and developmental stages that we would expect them to have. So that's not about wringing our hands and wondering what to do about that. That's about putting in a bid, getting some funding from the DFE and working with our local nurseries. So for the last 2 years, we've been working with our local nurseries to really think about sharing practice and looking at that data that tells us about the importance of speech and language and communication that we thought about earlier and really working together collaboratively to improve that. We have to, when I was thinking about developing the best teachers then, so recruitment, of course, retention, absolutely. It has to be about the long-term game, and again, I've said semi-permeable membrane is how I would see my role, but it's about protecting. We just talked a moment ago about bottom up, top down. I think teaching practice, pedagogy and professional judgment has never been better in our schools as it is currently. And I think that some of the most outstanding practice from our Federation of Schools, which is more than 1,000 students, more than 1,000 teachers, the practice is because they're collaborating from the ground up, collectively together, and we're navigating the path of what's coming top down together collectively with professional judgment at the centre of that. I think our 5 and 6 year olds, I asked them a question. We did a questionnaire for our families and then we changed the questions around to ask them of our young children. And we asked them, do your teachers teach you well and how do you know? And the resounding answer was yes. One of our children, Lucy, said when on the questionnaire, she's written, they did it independently, and she's written in response to the how do you know, because they go and visit other schools. Now, for me, that's massive, because actually the fact that our children who are 6 years old recognise that to develop teachers means going out and seeing each other in different contexts and really improving the pedagogy and practice collectively and collaboratively is fundamental. They understand it, we understand it, and it's what needs to happen more. So we don't do fixed lesson observations with clipboards at the back of the room. We do peer observations day in, day out, lots and lots of support and mentoring, like Charles talked about, and improving the practice. So Melinda's slide of never, ours would be a slide of always. Each one of those things, when you read them out, we're doing them and we're doing them. But we're sharing that with schools across the Federation and across the district to improve things. And then I think the last thing is it's about that culture of trust that you create in your schools. It's about creating that culture of trust, humility, and a genuine partnership in learning. And that's what will make the difference to keeping those teachers, improving those teachers, and improving the outcomes for our young people.
Thank you very much.